Peace, family. My name is Vicki Dillard. So pleased to be with you today on African Diaspora News Channel. Please make sure that as you come in, you give us a big thumbs up and share the broadcast. Thank you so very much. You strengthen our Black collective voice. Every time you share, when you engage, beloved, how many of you all know that we're the counter voice to the oppressive classes media apparatus? And media is a part of warfare. We are a strategic and important part of Black progress around the world. And for that, thank you so much, family. Now, I was reading some very disturbing information concerning Ghana. According to this piece, the European Union, the EU, delivers 105 military vehicles, it says, in the face of jihadist threat from the Sahel. It says that Ghana is to receive some fleet of 100 armored vehicles from the European Union. Ghana, along with the Gulf of Guinea, neighbors Togo, Benin, and Ivory Coast, are increasingly at risk from jihadi violence wreaking havoc in the Sahel. It says it is imperative to understand that no single country can confront the terrorist threat on their own, Ghana's president said. Collaborative efforts among nations facing this challenge and critical support from partners such as the European Union, who share our security concerns, remain crucial in mitigating the terrorist threat in the West African region. It says the delivery of the military sea vehicles is officially a part of aid that will later include aerial surveillance equipment and electronic warfare systems. The EU said that the Ghana aid was a part of a 616 million euro package to strengthen defense and security of the 4 coastal countries of the Gulf of Guinea. It says that Ghana has not yet reported any, listen, I need y'all to pay attention to this. While Ghana has not yet reported any jihadist attacks inside its territory, Benin's military say they faced around 20 incursions from across the border since 2021. Togo has also suffered attacks in the northern frontier. EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell said EU investment would also target job creation and services, especially in northern Ghana, where there are concerns jihadists seek to take advantage of socioeconomic dissatisfaction. Family, did you hear where it says that Ghana has not yet reported any jihadist attacks? Now, trust me, I know it is important that we take mitigating actions, preemptive actions. That's just intelligent. But one should feel very suspicious knowing that that Western region and certainly the Sahel have just kicked out the West, and the United States of America and others are concerned that they might be next. And all of a sudden, the European Union and the bloodsuckers of the poor in that region are all of a sudden concerned about the welfare of that region and sending you now a $616 million euro package. And then they say that some of it has to do with economics for job creation. This is a payoff for access, in my opinion, to the continent, specifically Ghana. This is a way for the colonialists to make their way back on the continent after being repeatedly and successfully ejected out of multiple nations. It is important that within the context of this, to the degree that some of our brothers and sisters on the continent believe that's true, of course, the president of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, excuse me, I appreciate his position and his demand, especially during the United Nations 78th Assembly, demanding with great clarity reparations. I believe even his country did a reparations conference, which I need to be invited to. Talk black to me. That's great. But family, we can't play dumb like we don't see some of the signs and this sort of what it appears to be now ameliorating Westerners to give them access in exchange for some of this money. Talking about military aid, but they're actually throwing in some other money, you know, to show a little bit of relief. I know sometimes in certain spots, if a nation is dealing with an upcoming election or this, that, and the third going on, you know, they're trying to appease some of the people there. So give them the impression that they're actually doing something substantive, but they're actually selling out their people in a certain way. Now, I'm not trying to speak ill of the president there, but this is very concerning. We see the military industrial complex around the world loves war and battle. And if they can keep the fighting going throughout Africa and the so-called Middle East, that means you have no time for development of your countries and building, because they have you fighting and carrying on and being preoccupied with their presence that's doing nothing but finding a new foothold so that it can again take over. You should also be concerned because I did coverage, for example, and showed you some of the speech of the illustrious Mali foreign minister representative that announced to the UN that they reported France sponsoring terrorism and its acts of hostilities months before the European Union 78th Assembly. The foreign minister pointed out the fact that France sits on the UN Security Council and reported that they are sponsoring terrorism. Now, before the 78th Assembly of the United Nations, I did back-to-back coverage, and I showed you clips of professionals that was referring to people that are on the ground and referring to credible reports that show on the continent, witnesses have said to bring in cameras and bring in the media, and they can prove that these terrorist organizations are actually creations of the West. Why? So that they can have an excuse to be on the continent. We have seen that in many of these regions where the United States and France and others have had a presence, terrorism, alleged terrorism, has increased. Some say, well, of course it's going to increase when you create the terrorist organizations. And if your people are unsuspecting to know that you're actually behind these attacks, and when they report you to global bodies, when they tell you to get out, this is another reason some of us believe that France and the West don't necessarily don't want to leave, not necessarily don't want to leave the continent. When we tell them to get out and when they say let us police our own nations, because you know what, if they policing their own nations, they may get to the bottom of it. But when they're there, it says terrorism has actually increased. And of course, that would make sense that if the claims, which are credible, of course, are correct, that some of these Western countries are actually creating the Al-Shabaabs of the world and other similar terrorist organizations. Of course, you're going to give the appearance that it's getting worse so that you can continue to justify your predatory, destructive, diabolical presence there. We must keep these things in mind. We're wanting to know, is there some back dealing that's been going on that the public needs to know about, Mr. President Nana Akufo-Addo, His Excellency, with all due respect? We see what's happening throughout the continent and also in the Middle Eastern regions. We're finding that these Western countries are directly responsible for some of the mess making in these countries so that they can continue their imperialist reign. They know that if you're not fighting amongst yourselves, and if they're not coming there being the mess makers and the peace breakers, not the peacemakers, but the peace breakers of your country, you're not going to be talking about development, because they're fearful that because you have so many resources and you're certainly an intelligent people, that if you ever live in peace for any reasonable period of time, you will become your own superpower. So they keep mess going on purpose. They find a corrupt leader so that they can keep paying and involving themselves in corrupt deals with, so that it's always mess going on. I'm just asking some questions and bringing this to the public's attention. We're the new world rulers. You can tell with the condition of the world that the people that are in power clearly are incompetent to rule. And I know you don't think that you're worthy because they made you believe that you weren't worthy. But do you know that they study your DNA out of space and use it for technological and scientific advances? If NASA knows something sacred and secret about your royal bloodline and DNA, and if the Vatican stole some of your ancient rites that goes beyond religion, you might want to tap into your own magic. This is what I'm going to be teaching November 12th. Mark your calendars for Sunday, November 12th, my next ancestral webinar. I'm going to be talking to you about your supernatural powers so that we can heal spells, hexes, and curses that's been over our bloodline, reprogram it so that we can be in position to rule the world. We're the original people. Don't you forget that. But there's a sacred vault inside your bloodline. This is the true forbidden knowledge they don't want you to know. I'm going to be joined by the divine mystic Rod Hayes, and we're going to break down things that you may or may not have known, but we're also going to engage in some divine rituals to activate you to become the new world rulers. You don't want to miss this. You can't afford to miss this. Make the investment in yourself. Go to my website today at VickiPlanet.com. It's only a few days away. Sunday, November 12th. We're going to try to have a replay. So if you're seeing this, you won't miss it. Go to my website, VickiPlanet.com. That's VICKI Planet.com. I can't wait to see you again.